getting ready for bed that night and having the thought, is this really what you want to do? Do you really like this? And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Hi y'all, welcome to my channel, Simply Akia. I'm so glad you're here. If you like what you see today, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and comment below if there's anything you like to say. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my journey with leaving my PhD program. Yes, you heard it right. I left my clinical psychology PhD program, and it was a very, very difficult decision, but probably one of the best decisions I've made in a really long time. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about it and just explore what all happened throughout that process. And I'll never forget that day when I made the decision. I still had such a weird feeling, and I can't explain it, but it was such a weird feeling that I felt. I let the University of Mississippi know that I wanted to accept the offer to be a part of the program. I ended up starting August of 2022. Immediately when I got there, it was extremely different than what I was used to. Like, I was very used to my school requiring a lot, but this was different. Being in a PhD program is different, and you really have to learn how to adjust. You really have to learn your own rhythm as you go. And so that was kind of what I was doing within my first year. Mind you though, within that first year, I still had those weird feelings. And I'll never forget being home one day after one of the classes that I took, after a day of feeling so anxious, so overwhelmed. I'll never forget getting ready for bed that night and having the thought, is this really what you want to do? Do you really like this? And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Come on, brain. No, what we're not about to do is sit up here and question this. No. Like, I once again, brushed it off because I couldn't fathom leaving such an accomplishment. I was like, you know what? No, I got into this PhD program. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to stick it out. But when I tell y'all, that was the hardest year. I struggled in so many ways, and it wasn't even like just academic. Like, I didn't fail classes or anything. Like, I stayed on top of all of my work, but I was to my end, like mentally, emotionally. Like, I wasn't taking care of myself physically. It was like all of those aspects of my life, even spiritually, were just like dwindling. It was just like slipping through my hands. And and honestly, it was so tough for me that I turned to find comfort in ways that I shouldn't have. But I say that all to say that it was just such a draining year. But again, you hear all the time, like, this is just the talk when you're in a PhD program. Your first year is hard. Your second year is probably going to be even harder. But once you get through those years, the rest of the years are hard, but they're not as hard. Like, that's just the conversation within my program specifically. And so I was like, okay, this was just your first year. You know, a lot of people have questioned themselves, questioned this their first year. You got to get through your second year. So I stuck it out again, and I went into my second year feeling so off, y'all. I kid you not, the summer before going into my second year, that entire summer, I could barely enjoy myself because I had to still complete different requirements for the program. I still had to stay on top of different obligations for the program. It's like work never stops. When you're in PhD programs, your summers are still full of you making sure you're staying on top of certain responsibilities. So I didn't really have a break. It was just like I couldn't even really sit and be happy with the moments that I had to myself, or sit and be happy with the time away that I had because oftentimes I was thinking in the back of my head, well, you have to do this for school. You have to do this, for your program. You have to make sure this is done. And honestly, because the program was offering so much good, quote unquote, like I was able to travel within this program several times. I met some amazing people along the way. It was like I couldn't really peel back the layers to get to what I was really feeling on the inside with being in this program. And when I peeled back the layers, I was unhappy. I was extremely unhappy being in the program. But again, it kind of brought me back to the moments of me being an undergrad and having the thoughts of quitting biology. That wasn't a decision that I made right away. And part of that was due to the fact that it was frowned upon. And being in graduate school, being in a PhD program, I couldn't sit with the thought of leaving. Like that just felt like, I'm going to be completely honest, the biggest failure. It felt like the biggest failure to sit and think about really taking a step to leave, because I did have the thoughts, like I said, over that summer before my second year of, what are you doing? Like, do you really want to be here? What would it be like for you to no longer be in this program, no longer go to school? I had those thoughts, but I couldn't sit with them long because of the uncomfortability of, what happens after that and in the process of doing it? What will people think? That was like a major thing I struggled with, was what will others think? How will others be affected? I never sat to think about how I felt, how I was affected in that very moment with being in the program. And it sucked too, because I have a heart that wants to serve and help others in some way. But I was so hooked on it being this way that I was like, well, if you let this go, you're letting go of the one way that you're going to serve people. Y'all know that's far from the truth, but when you get in your head, or when you let the enemy talk to you and get you in your head, this is what comes up. So that was kind of what I dealt with up until that summer before my second year. And then I went into my second year. It was even worse, y'all, even worse than my first year. And honestly, I kept pushing aside my feelings because I was like, you know what? Everybody says second year is the worst. That's what they say. So this is just what you're experiencing. It got to a point where I couldn't sit with that any longer. I couldn't sit with this one line of thought, second year is just the worst, because what I was experiencing was terrible. I felt horrible every day I woke up. I was sad. I was anxious all the time. My mind was constantly racing. It was to the point where I would go to bed at night with my heart fluttering out my chest because of how anxious I was about the next day. And then I would struggle to get up out of bed. I would lengthen my time of sleep because I just didn't want to get up. Like, I was mentally exhausted from the day before and just felt like I needed to compensate from that in some way. And at the same time, I was like, I don't want to get up. I don't want to do another day. Like, I was struggling. I was crying a lot. I had a lot of breakdowns, way more than I did my first year. It was like first year was elevated as far as hardships, but second year was like over the edge. And I had to sit down and really start being real with myself at that point. I don't want to keep holding on to something so tightly that is not meant for me. And I can no longer allow me being in school to be my number one, or me pursuing this career that I think is the best for me to be my number one, because I'm now seeing the consequences of that. It got to a point where I was in my second year finishing the spring semester, and I started considering taking time off. So a lot of students in PhD programs have the opportunity, when different challenges present itself, they have the opportunity to take time off, whether that's a semester, whether that's a year, whatever it may look like, to get to a space where they can complete the program successfully. Now it comes to the point of me letting people know that I'm thinking about taking a break, and where I really was mentally with everything. And that was so hard for me because I struggled at that time really heavily with how people perceived me. And I started letting friends know who were in the program that I felt I could trust with that. And I had to talk to my mentor. And that was the number one conversation that I really was afraid would go left, I guess I should say. But I had to be real. And it took 2 conversations, 2 or 3, for me to like really get all out what I was going through at that point. But again, she was the most amazing mentor, most amazing person. She was so receptive to what I was saying. She was understanding. And at that point, I was so grateful to hear her say, you know, I want what's best for you. If you need to take this time away to do that, I encourage it. So let's figure out a game plan. So I had the green light from my mentor. But of course, when it comes to those types of decisions, and I was very upfront and honest about the fact that I wasn't completely sure that I would be returning. And I had been having thoughts of whether or not this was the route for me to go. Because of that, I had to speak to the clinical director about what was going on, just to make sure that he was in the loop. So I let him know, and I proceeded with taking the summer off. It truly was a lot for me to take a step away, and getting over that people pleasing. Y'all, it was a lot. And to be in this position where there was so much unknown, I did a fast to make sure like I was really letting go of all the things that were distracting me. I was able to sit with, what if you don't go back? I was able to sit with it, finally. What if you don't go back? What if this isn't what you actually want to do? What if, yes, you're supposed to serve and love others, but it's just not in this way. It's not in this capacity, and it's not in this environment. It's not with this career, you know? I was able to finally sit with that and really like open my eyes to that. And eventually I got to a point where I was like, I don't think this is for me. I don't think being in this program is for me. I don't think pursuing this career path is for me. But when I sat with leaving and following wherever God wants me to go, that may look completely different than this, I felt nervous because it was just the unknown that was after that, you know? It wasn't really an uneasy feeling, but it was just like nervousness around the unknown. And so that was what I noticed was different about the two when making the decision. And I'll never forget when I finally was like, okay, God, I'm gonna let this go. Just be with me. I'll never forget when I finally made that decision after fasting, after talking to amazing people that are in my corner. The night I was sending the night I had prepared the emails, I prepared emails to send off to my mentor and to the clinical director to let them know. I'll never forget that night I went to bed and I felt that nervous feeling. It was just a nervous feeling, and I made sure I talked to God about it, and I let him know, like, I feel nervous about this because of the unknown that surrounds it, and because I feel like I'm being stripped from everything that I once knew. I only, up until that point, had known school. Like IKEA and school. It was like a peanut butter jelly sandwich. And that's just what it was. And I talked to him about it. I was honest and I prayed on it, but I still had like faith that everything was going to be okay. Like he was going to provide, and I didn't need to be afraid of the unknown. I didn't need to be afraid of it, especially because he's with me. I feel like I am getting back to who God actually created me to be. I'm actually tapping into the things I've always wanted to try. And it's just been so beautiful. It's been very, very beautiful. And I'm excited for what's to come. So, I would love to hear in the comments, you know, whether or not anyone is experiencing something similar or has experienced something similar. Comment it down below and let's just encourage one another. And if you're interested in following me on this journey of what's next, what's next, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and tune in to what's in store, because there will be so much more. And I hope to see y'all again. I hope y'all will come back and watch again. So yeah, I will catch y'all next time, and thank you so much for tuning in. All right, bye.